Would you like to reduce your net fleet fuel spend by 10 to 23%? Could you use that money in other areas in your company while reducing your carbon footprint at the same time? Click the link below and learn more. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Freight Executive Insights. I am Mike Vincent. He's James Ward. He's the freight executive with all the insights. No pressure, my friend. He's gonna explain everything in LTL. Y'all gonna be good. Welcome to the show, my friend.
A lot of pressure when you introduce somebody like that.
Yeah, it is. But I set the bar low. You know,
Yeah, okay.
I could have. No, I'm just grabbing their attention, and everybody knows that. I mean, everybody who's met me or knows me in any way, shape, or form knows the first thing out of my mouth is complete BS.
That's fair. Well,
I've never told the truth first ever in my life. I don't think.
Well, we are both. We spent some time in Altoona, so if you want, we could take the next 30 minutes and break down Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Let me ask you this. So in Altoona, did you ever go to the Broke Jaw Bar?
No,
down there near Roaring Spring.
It's probably changed names. So I probably know a different name, but
well, it wasn't even that name at the time. They just called it the Broke Jaw because if you ain't from around there and you show up, you're probably coming out with a broke jaw.
that's funny. There's so many cool little pockets and cool little bars in Altoona. I'm a big foodie. I live in New York, so we have New York City.
Oh yeah,
a ton of great food here. But to this day,
probably a little bit better than Duncansville.
Yeah, no. Let me say what I was going to say. To this day, I think Altoona has some of the best buffalo wings I've ever had, and just some of like the best bar food. Like we do bar food really, really well, and we stole it from Pittsburgh, but we do the fries on the salad. And
oh yeah.
So every time we have a customer come in, and we're like, "All right, get your fries on the salad," they're like, "What are you talking about?" So.
Yeah, no, actually, I enjoyed I lived there for about 5 years in Altoona. Okay. Yeah. So I was traveling all over. I was running, and this isn't about me, but I had Du Bois State College, Lewisburg, Johnstown, Altoona.
Yeah.
Though I had all those terminals.
Okay.
Right? Right after the strike in the early 90s at Roadways. Right after that strike, we were getting rid of all the neighborhood terminals, like condensing. We had like 900 and some terminals across the United States at the time. But you couldn't get rid of it there because the topography there. You're not running a 40,000 pound load of sintered metals out of, St. Mary's up by Du Bois across the mountains in a C800.
Sure.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So we had to keep those little terminals. Yeah, a little challenging. Anyways, let's talk about you, brother. We're not here to talk about me. So Ward Transportation and Logistics Corp, you're VP of Corporate Sales, in case you didn't know that. Give the lowdown on Ward, brother.
Yeah, so we are a 93-year-old LTL trucking company, started by my great-grandfather. So the story goes, or at least the story that I tell, it was a load of eggs from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, up to New York City. He didn't have a backhaul, right? So he looked at the books and he's like, financially, this doesn't make sense. But the business partner at the time convinced him to do one more load, and it was a similar load from Lancaster up to New York. And this time he got a backhaul. It was like a backhaul of oil. And that's how the company started. And that was 1931. And you hear these stories, and think about 1931. I mean, it was not a great time in the country, definitely not a great time to start a business.
No.
You hear these stories, like many legacy companies out there. Are you sure
it was eggs? He was.
I don't know.
I don't know. There's some backwoods stills even back there. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe he was a bootlegger or something. But what I was going to say is their house was like the dispatch room, and it was also the bunkhouse, and my great grandmother was like she would cook for the drivers, and you just hear these stories throughout the years that him cutting handshake deals with employees because maybe they wanted to move into a house, right, so they could start a family. So he was more about the people aspect of the business and not so much the trucking side.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we started. And obviously, we've gone through a lot throughout the years. We've been able to grow. And I think we've been able to do that just because we've been nimble and flexible, and we've been able to pivot. We got through deregulation, and many great carriers didn't make it.
No, they certainly didn't. And many failed afterwards, man. I mean, even right there in Altoona, dude. Some national, nationwide big names failed, right? I mean, Carolina was there. All these, Preston. I remember they were there when I was there in
Sure.
Altoona. They left while I was there. In those 5 years, we lost major carriers in that
Yeah, and listen, you know this just from experience, but it comes down to people at the end of the day.
area. It does.
And we have some phenomenal people that have, worked for our company and work for our company today. Like I said, we're a legacy company, so you have a lot of folks that have been with Ward for many years, and you don't really see that as much anymore. But like, it's not uncommon to celebrate somebody's 40-year anniversary, right, with our company.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
it's just pretty cool stuff. So fast forward to today, I represent the fourth generation. I have a twin brother; he's involved, and I have two cousins; they're involved, and one of which is our president and CEO. So we are, the fourth generation, very humbled, but we understand what we have to do. We understand that we have to work hard, and we've been given a phenomenal opportunity. It's a tough business, as you know, and so
Mm.
you have to make sure that you're doing it right, and so that's our goal. We've been able to expand recently over the last couple of years. We're really kind of back in that growth mode, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
Are you nationwide now?
No, no. So we're Michael. We play in the regional space. So
So you're
we're
you're still in the Northeast regional
Yeah, think
area?
Mid Atlantic. Think Mid
Yeah.
Atlantic from the Carolinas up to New York, out to the Midwest. So Chicagoland and Indy has been the latest offering, and we're about 6 months ago we got into Indy, so that's been good.
Yeah, I got in trouble for a little bit. I took it upon myself to change my line haul routings because out of Altoona area and Du Bois and Johnstown, the area that I was operating for Roadway Express, to compete with you guys and others, I changed. My parent terminal is Akron, Ohio.
Okay.
Okay, and according to Roadway, if anybody who's worked for Roadway, you follow the freaking operations manual, man. You do not. I started launching trailers from Altoona to Harrisburg and down
Okay.
to the Carolinas and up to Stroudsburg instead of going back to Akron because half my freight was going that way. So I sent half my trailers west and half east
Yeah.
because I couldn't afford the extra day or 12 hours of transferring to compete with the service that you guys had and others had at the time. So, yeah, Roadway didn't like that until they go, wait a minute, this actually makes sense. You should
Yeah.
probably be doing that.
No, so you mentioned service. I mean, that's kind of that's the offering to our shipper community. Most of our lanes are next day. You
Yeah.
have some 2 to 3 day lanes, but if you look at the area of the country that we operate in, I mean, we have a unique footprint, and I think it helps the shipping community. Especially when it's those shippers that need that just in time, right? So they can call up a Ward. I mean, that's why they call us. They call us up because they know that we're going to pick something up in Pittsburgh and get it delivered in South Plainfield the next day, right?
Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing: is when you're operating in that type of environment, right? You can do a lot of efficiencies and a lot of things for the customers that a more national focused LTL carrier cannot do
Yeah,
or won't do just because they don't recognize the opportunity as well. Like you can build a head load right at the customer's dock, and
sure.
and really it moves essentially as a truckload. It never moves across another dock quite easily if you're going from Pittsburgh to New York City or something like that,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
in that
We
area.
get we get crafty with our customers, and
Yeah,
we
of
can
course.
do that because one of our advantages, there's less red tape when you're working with a company like ours, meaning like there's extreme flexibility. The communication is high, right? So you can pick
Mm.
up the phone and talk to that terminal manager, the customer service rep. You can talk to your sales rep and really craft out these cool solutions that's really needed now in today's environment, right?
Yeah. I mean, the cross dock situation in the hub and spoke is only there to be able to create efficiencies, and all too often, LTL companies and even just pockets within the company think that that is the required tool. No, it's a tool there to help you do things the correct way. The
Yeah,
best dock production is zero.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, good point.
I mean,
Yeah, still working on that.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you're never going to get there because that's the nature of the business. But it's
Yeah,
the point is not to move freight across the dock, right? It is to get it
exactly.
from A to B and
Less
use.
touches. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So you just came back from mutual friends of ours, Curtis Garrett from ULTL, right?
Yeah.
And you guys are. I mean, that thing. I was gonna. I was invited to be there. I didn't. I didn't make it. Hopefully, the next one I'll be able to do that. I had some other stuff that I needed to do, but. Um, you were presenting there, talking about future of what's going on at Ward, right? You want to cover some of that?
Well, yeah. So I had the chance to present, and it was really about future work. But let me
Okay,
just back up. So, if for
okay,
those that are listening, if you've seen some of Curtis's stuff on LinkedIn, and if you've seen some of this ULTL stuff, find a way to get there. So this has been, I think, his third conference. Find a way to get to the next one because it is so valuable. Like you've been to conferences before, so you get it. It's like you get there on a Sunday, you leave on a Wednesday, and you say to yourself, "I am mentally and physically exhausted. What did I just do?" Right?
yeah,
Because like you're
right,
constantly talking to customers and vendors. It almost feels like that speed dating.
yeah,
This conference, and I don't even want to call it a conference, it's more like a think tank. This is completely different. Like you're in a room, it's like an intimate gathering, it's like 40 or so folks, and you're just breaking down LTL and you're breaking down, what needs to happen and how certain things can happen with like new technology. And so it was so valuable and everyone's chiming in because you're in like this safe space, right? You feel like you can just collaborate. And I think
yeah, yeah,
that's what Curtis and his team has been able to do. And so I would urge everyone to find a way to.
yeah. That's what he told me. He said you can come. He invited me to come because I have a lot I can bring to the table. And that was the that's what he said. That's the purpose of it. You don't go there and not participate.
Yeah, no, you don't. You don't. And I think that's the value of some of those things, right?
Yeah,
But yeah, so we talked everything about pricing tools. We talked about freight optimization and how do you aggregate your data, for forecasting. And like I think the future is like you have all these tentacles out there in the supply chain, and how are you going to be able to connect and plug, everyone together? Like that's how I think is what this space is going to be about. So a lot of shared thought, a lot of collaboration. And then when I was in front of the group, I was able to talk to them about future work. And I love this topic because there's so many different pieces to it, right? And I'm not an expert at future work, but the topic's fascinating because if you think about it, like from a workplace standpoint, we all have a workplace, right? My
yeah,
workplace looks different than yours. Our workplace looks different than a 3PL because we're asset heavy, right? We
yeah,
have multiple departments, everyone's wearing different hats. And so you have this like multiple generations working under a company umbrella. And those generations are the baby boomers, you got the Gen Xers, you got the millennials, and now you have
mm,
this new generation, the Gen Zers, right?
yeah, yeah,
It's like, how do you, like on one side of the equation, the baby boomers are retiring, right? Um, Long careers, they're finally
yeah,
exiting the industry, well deserved. Now companies are either promoting from within. So those Gen Xers, about 50% of the leadership roles today are filled by a Gen Xer. You're promoting within with millennials, but then you also have to think about your bench, right? And that bench is going to come from that Gen Z group. So, like, how do you attract those Gen Zers that want purpose-driven organizations? They want, the employee wellness. They want that recognition, right? If they do something well, they want to be recognized.
yeah,
And they want that ultimate flexibility because when they came into the workplace, it was right after COVID, and we had this new thing, this remote work, right?
right.
That's what they're used to. So we had some really thorough conversations just around that and what it's going to take to kind of create that new makeup of an organization.
Yeah. Just melding the generations across in your organization is a majorly difficult
Yeah,
task,
because
right?
there's so many different motivating factors. Like everyone has their own motivation. So it's like and then like we were talking, like, is it really worth going all in on some of these newer trends? Like, is it worth, having folks have the flexibility to work from home 3 days a week, or
Yeah.
maybe take 30 minutes, you know, out of their day to go outside and like, get some fresh air? Is it like, does all that stuff at the end of the day contribute to the bottom line? If it does, great. But I think some companies are trying to figure out, does it really contribute? But these are conversations that you have to have right now. Because if you
Well,
don't,
yeah, I mean,
you're left behind.
you've got a whole family history to draw from and understand, right? And a lot of people don't, right? So I mean, you talk about it at Ward, you've got people celebrating 40 years and stuff,
Yeah,
and that's not by accident.
sure.
I mean, that's because at the beginning, the the CEO, the founder, was loaning people money to buy a house.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And they were you're cooking for them and all this other kind of stuff. And that culture obviously has not gone away. Otherwise, you wouldn't have drivers that are good that are 40 years there, or employees or
sure.
dock employees, etc.
Yeah,
Right? I mean,
yeah.
a dock guy retiring from the company, that's wild.
It is wild, but it's changing because you don't see as much as that of that anymore, right? You
Yeah,
don't
no,
see that
you don't.
15-year dock veteran that loves the dock, is really skilled and at the dock. So it's like you're wrapping your head around some of this stuff, and you're thinking, okay, what needs to change? What are the incentives throughout the company, that we can kind of, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is what's going to make our customer service department tick versus the dock versus the driver, versus HR, some of the other back office functions. And what makes them excited and motivates them might be completely different than another segment of the company.
Yeah, and then but then in the LTL space, you've got larger and smaller pockets of all of those functions of all the across you're mid Atlantic, right? I mean,
Sure.
you're not controlling everything out of Altoona
No, yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
or Roaring Springs or whatever. Where's the base at? Is it Martins? It's not
No, we're in
Martinsburg.
Altoona. Yeah.
It's in Altoona. So I mean that's you know what I'm saying. So you got these different pockets of culture, and even I would hazard a guess that I mean because it was certainly true when I was there. The culture in Altoona and Du Bois and State College is not the same as it is in Pittsburgh and
Yes.
or Cleveland. You know what I mean? It's totally different type of motivators in those different pockets. So those are huge challenges as well, right?
Very much so. We're not in a metro area where you can pull from, multiple universities or, just multiple, demographics. So yeah, we have to kind of figure out what that special sauce is.
Yeah,
I think we figure it out, for generations before, this generation, because otherwise we wouldn't have folks, retiring with 40 plus years and more, right? But it's like, how do you? We were just talking about this a few months ago at our strategic planning session. It's like, how do we attract folks not only to the industry, um, to like the trucking company, but how do you attract them to Altoona, Pennsylvania? And we've
I
done.
absolutely do. I had the corporate said, "Hey, we're giving you the supervisor," and I'm going, "Please don't." They look
Yeah.
fantastic. They look fantastic, but they're not going to last 6 months here. They're just not.
Yeah. But listen, I give us a lot of credit because we've expanded our mindset. So we have become more flexible when it comes to some of that stuff. So we have a lot of leadership that doesn't necessarily, live in Altoona. And,
Yeah. Well,
and
I was talking. They're sending me a supervisor, 21-year-old supervisor who grew up in New York City, and
got
they're going to come out single and working out. Nah, it's not going to happen, dude. It's not going to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's going to be a challenge. One of the other things, Mike, we've
Yeah.
done, we've formalized a mentorship program. So this is our third year of doing that, and these are the folks that have raised their hands, or we've picked them and said, hey, listen, we want to do more with the company. We like it. We love the
Yeah.
industry. we want to do more. So it's been a really nice get for us in the sense that we've been able to kind of graduate some of these mentees and get them into, other roles and promote them.
So let me ask you this, James, and along this same vein, what role does technology play in helping that? Like, AI, true automation. I mean, automation and AI, right? I mean, they're different. They're different, obviously. And does that assist in some of these things where you're talking about, the difference in can they get outside for a half hour? Can they have a little bit better quality of life? Right? I mean, I had 21-year-olds waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning every freaking day and
Yeah.
coming to work and work until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, even in Altoona, because they had to work the inbound and then you had half the shift of dispatch. And then you had another person come in to finish the night and they didn't get done until 10 o'clock at night, that type of stuff. And, you know, do efficiencies and new technologies help that? Do they play a role in that? Or are you searching for those type of things to assist in this?
Yeah, I think they do. When you go out and ask people, whether it's like an office function or operations, they want more personal training and coaching, but they also want more tech support in their day to day. Right. So
Yeah.
if you can, and we've done a nice job at, you have this like development, you have this resistance, and then you have this adoption. So you got folks saying, we want the tech, bring on the tech. And then you have some other folks say, no, tech's never going to replace the human side or, the human element. But I think there's both. So we've realistically, like in the next 10 to 15 years, my opinion, you're just going to continue to see this tech, like how you augment the tech into your day to day operation. Right. I don't
Mm,
think we're going to be able to automate everything.
right.
But
No.
we are going to be able to take some of this like really strong tech and get really prescriptive with it and understand how it's going to help make our dispatcher's job a heck of a lot easier, right? Or
Mm,
make the dock worker's job, more efficient, safer, even with the driver. And I
mm,
think that's what the new generation is looking for. They want that purpose driven organization, but they want the organization that has the tools to back up, their services and offerings. Yeah. So we've done a really nice job at implementing some really strong pieces of tech into our operation. There's so much out there now.
yeah.
And one of my fears is not a fear, but you have to be prepared and do your research because you can't invest in everything, and you
Right.
don't want to invest in the wrong tech that sets you back.
Right.
And there's so much out there that you could potentially do that. So I think it also gets back to knowing your customer and knowing what the offering, right? You have an offering and a value prop, and you have to understand what that is and make
Yeah.
sure that your core, everything you do is kind of centered around that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. What do you see do you see pressures in the sustainability side of it from the employees, or is that, or from the customer side, more a
yeah.
regulation side? Where's it coming from more uh,
Well,
at this time when you think about, the champions of that or the pressure?
yeah,
Uh,
it's coming both. Um, you know,
really?
the regulatory side, I mean, that's like changing I feel like every day. Still don't really know what's ultimately going to happen there. But there are certain states that are mandating, some like pretty drastic sustainability actions. And, we operate in some of those states. So we need to be prepared. But lately, Michael, our customer base, especially the corporate customer, they
Mm,
want to know. It's not so much like version one was like, okay, more of like the marketing. Like, okay, do you guys have a sustainability plan? What are some of
yeah.
those cool, touchy feely things? Now we're kind of in this like version two where it's like, that's great, but I want to know what my carbon footprint is by shipment,
Yeah.
right? So we at Ward, we're in that phase now where we're trying to understand and understand our data and how we can kind of deliver some of those deliverables to the customer that are eco-friendly, conscious customers.
Yeah. Are you seeing it more and more? I mean, on the truckload side, I hear more and more, and over the years, there obviously is where if you're going to respond to an RFP and you're going to win this business, you've got to be able to tick these boxes and show
Yeah.
what your scope 3 is or your scope 1s.
Yeah.
They'd be their scope 3s, but show where that is. Is that becoming more and more prevalent in pricing requests
Oh,
and,
without a
and
doubt.
contracts?
Without a doubt. You're seeing more and more on that, like with the, the RFIs, before the RFP, they want to
Yeah.
know, like, can you check those boxes? Some of that takes a lot of resources though. Like we worked on one that was probably for like 6 months, and ultimately the shipper, they ultimately made carrier routing decisions based off of our final score, on that, on that survey.
Really? Is it? I mean, it's is overpriced.
Yeah, well, listen, price always has a
Yeah,
factor.
right.
uh,
That's that guy
which,
crazy. That's that
but
guy
that's what I also
crazy.
tell the customer. I'm like, okay, listen, I'm willing to pay more at the end of the day to have your freight ride on an EV or a biodiesel piece of equipment. And I don't know if they've been able to answer that yet, but I get it. They're under a lot of pressure.
Sure,
A lot of that pressure is
sure.
coming down from from their board of directors and their C-suite. So I
Yeah,
get it. So yeah, it's just trying to understand the complexities of it all and understand, and also like getting out in front of your customer and being like, these are the challenges right now when it comes to sustainability. Like this is what
yeah.
you really need to know. Like I read somewhere, I think it's going to cost the nation $620 billion just to create the like electric charging infrastructure. Right? If we
Sure.
all went over to the EV,
Yeah,
and that's not really realistic right now.
yeah.
You
No,
know?
it's not. And with other advancements, et cetera, the pressure. Even if you had the ability to upgrade the EV and produce all that stuff in time to do what the
Yeah.
plans or the mandates are, there's not enough raw minerals to do that stuff. I mean, there just isn't. There's not enough people. I mean, just look it up. Look up copper. Just type
No,
in
yeah.
copper in Google. There isn't enough.
They actually said from the actual like life cycle to for a electric truck, it's actually like from the mining to like actually hitting the street. It's actually worse for the environment than
Well,
just
yeah,
diesel.
in most areas. I mean, for instance, an EV car here in Chattanooga, where I'm at, and
Yeah.
now my energy's clean. I mean, clean,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
high. It's hydro and it's nuclear here,
Sure.
right? It is because even at that, an EV here takes 3 years to get carbon neutral.
Wow.
So I mean, but they're making huge advances in that, and that's. But yeah, I mean that's not the point of the conversation. But yeah, the pressures that are there is interesting, and how you get through those. That is
Yeah.
tremendous stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. Hey James, look, half hour's blown by, and we got a million more things that we could talk about. But I really appreciate your time today, brother. I hope you're well today. I hope you have a great day, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on. Who and where are they going to say, hey, dude, I need to move this pallet, dude. You guys got a truck over here near Johnstown. I can get this pallet moved over.
They can call us. We're a bunch of yinzers.
You are a bunch of yinzers. I know it. I
The
lived
good of
it.
Ward, yeah, wardtlc.com. It's wardtlc.com to learn more. And listen, we're out there. We run hard in this company. So you will see somebody that represents the organization at all these conferences and just out on the street. So just stop us. We like to make friends. So
Fantastic. I'll see you at the Steelers game. Bring your terrible towel.
yeah, cool. See you,
Right
man.
on, brother. I love it, brother. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to FEI. We'll see you guys next time. Peace and love.